Hello and welcome to Inside the Tank as we kick off the 2022-23 season and the Mississauga Steelheads celebrating their 10th anniversary. It's an honor and a pleasure to bring back the head coach and general manager of the Mississauga Steelheads, James Richmond. So JR, thank you as always for coming back on the show. It's great to have you back. And
thanks for having me. Just the import trade deadline and import draft and then the NHL draft and right now just doing some development with some of our guys and some of the NHL guys that they're always calling me to help them out. So
right on. It sounds like it's been a little bit of a busy summer for you so far.
Yeah, it's always is now, especially after COVID. You know, everybody's trying to get as much ice in as possible, but starting to get back to normal a little bit. But really just kind of, it's a little bit of a downtime for us right now. So the next 2 or 3 weeks before we start wrapping up for training camp. But just good to see the guys out there at the rink and come in the office every now and then just to do whatever work I got to do for GM stuff. Yeah, enjoying it.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And I want to jump right into it. So I know that this past season, it feels like it was a lifetime ago, but it was just a few short months ago. Now that the season has concluded, I wanted to get your thoughts on this past year and what are some takeaways that you can take into going into training camp.
Going into camp last year, we really didn't know what we would have. We knew that some players had put in a lot of work, obviously, through the COVID interruption. And we knew that some players were a little bit left behind for whatever reason. You know, a lot of different government regulations and couldn't get into rinks, couldn't get into gyms. So it was kind of, we didn't know what we'd have. We had a lot of new players. We played a little bit of different way here, system wise. So we didn't know how long it would take. And, we had a slow start, 2-7 or whatever it was. And then it just sort of gelled and everybody bought in and I think we had a great year. A lot of players made great strides that were back here. A lot of the new guys came in, kind of got their feet wet in a hurry and had super years for us. And we got great goaltending all year. So it was good. We didn't finish off the season the way we were hoping to, but that's the way it goes. And we'll get ready, use it to make ours better next year.
For sure. And going into this season, the roster is going to look quite a bit different. We're losing a couple of players in Kasper Larsson, Ole Bjorkvikholm, obviously the three OAs and Evan Brand, Aiden Pruder, and Roman Bazrin. Talk to me a little bit about how their absences are going to affect the lineup going into this season.
Yeah, so other guys in the back end are going to have to step up and take bigger roles. I don't know if Del Mastro can take a bigger role, but Chaz Sharp and Charlie Callahan and Dylan Gordon are going to have to step in and really take on a load. And then we'll have to bring guys along like we've done in the past. Parker Von Richter will be there, and then it'll be open up camp for guys to come in and show what they have. And if we feel at that time, we need to add through a trade or through the waiver market, then we'll look at that. I think up front, we're pretty set. We've got a good group of guys coming back, all the top producers, the core guys up front are back. So where we're missing a lot will be on the back end with the D and hopefully that the goaltending, it kind of forms into shape for us.
It's funny that you should mention goaltending. A couple of weeks ago, there was some news that Steelhead fans kind of woke up to and were a little bit surprised that Joe Ranger had been moved to the Sudbury Wolves. Just curious to know a little bit about what led up to that trade.
Yeah, so I had a couple of talks with Joe about, we love Joe. He's been a terrific Steelhead for us. The issue is with when you're going into a new season, you don't know which OAs are going to sign with pro teams. And, Joe and I spoke, he wanted to be back and he said, I told him he'd be the number one guy here. But at the same time, I really couldn't give him the 100% answer that he was looking for, because if our OA players don't sign with pro teams, guys like Uberti, Collins, Hardy, Callahan. You know, you're going to be stuck with an OA goalie, and then when he doesn't play, when an OA goalie doesn't play, he's on the bench, he's the backup. You're actually short an OA player in your lineup because you can't dress 4, you can only dress 3. So I thought it was the right thing to do for Joe, in the sense that if we didn't move him early, then there may not be a spot for Joe in the league next year. And we wrestled with it. You know, quite honestly, is it the best move for the hockey club? Maybe, maybe not, because he is a terrific person and he had a real strong year for us. But we also knew that we could get a real good one in the import draft that wouldn't be an OA. So that would allow us to keep, you know, a James Hardy, Uberti, Collins, Callahan type of thing. So the previous year when we went with an OA goalie, we didn't have any OAs coming back. We went out and traded for a brand, and we picked up Bazran. We only had Pruder. This year we've got an influx of OAs that can come back. So the long story short is I didn't really want to mess up Joe's last year. And if we only thought about ourselves, that could have been the case. And it's one of those things as a GM, you have to think about the person inside the jersey as well. And I know sometimes fans just, you know, see the player. But I spend 7 days a week, 24 hours a day with these kids. And so Joe and I spoke, and we still speak. You know, he called me on my birthday and whatnot, and he's a terrific kid, and I didn't want to mess it up for him just in case. So it's one of those things that we could get something on the import draft where our goalie with Chris Beckford-Sue really liked this goalie from Switzerland, and then we can keep the other OAs as well. So if we kept Joe, then one of those other guys is going to be gone too. Right. Going to be gone for sure, right? So
yeah, you want to make sure that you've got the best possible lineup, right? So sometimes, you know, it's a little bit of a tougher move, but it's a good thing that he's playing now where he's going to get some time as a starter, right?
Yeah. He's a good person.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's from the conversations that we've had with him off the ice. You know, he's terrific. He's incredible.
Yeah.
Looking on the topic of the draft, there were not only just the priority selection, and as you mentioned, there was also the import draft. Alessio Beglieri got selected with the first pick. I want to talk a little bit about him and what he brings to the lineup.
Very athletic goalie. Really, really ultra competitor. Gave Switzerland a chance to win in every game. They were outgunned against Sweden. That's the one game that I really have watched a few times. Now they were outgunned and he kept them in the game, you know, so he's done really well on the international stage. Like I said, a really athletic goalie, quiet in his net, and gives his team a chance to win every night. So Chris Beckford-Sue really thought that he'd be a number one in our league. So we talked to a couple of NHL teams. They really like him. So we went with him.
That's great to hear. Looking forward to seeing him on the ice, definitely. And there are a couple of other players. Let's shift over to the priority selection for just a second. In Lucas Karmiris, Ryerson Leanders, and of course Parker von Richter, the first 3 picks of the OHL's priority selection for the Steelheads. Talk to me a little bit about what each of those guys is going to bring.
So Karmiris, we had our scouts had him in the top 8 in the draft. So we were quite surprised that he was still available. We knew that he really wanted to be in Mississauga. So when he was there, when we picked, it was a no-brainer for us. Similar player to Owen Beck. Maybe not as powerful just yet, but a very smart player, very competitive kid that plays really well in the middle of the ice. Good on faceoffs, right shot. Every time we saw him play. He was the best player on the ice, or one of the best players on the ice every time we saw him play in the 06 loop. So he's a great pickup for us. Ryerson Leanders, again, Chris Beckford-Sue had him as the number one goalie in the Ontario draft, or in Ontario anyways. And I thought it was a good time to go out and bring the top end goalie in and develop him here within Mississauga, within the Steelheads organization. For years down the road, we'd have a true number one there. So instead of kind of hoping and throwing darts, taking a goalie later on in the draft, maybe the fifth, sixth, or seventh best goalie, I went all in and said, let's pick the best goalie we can find. Parker von Richter obviously has been around the Steelheads since he was a little kid. His family used to bill it for us. We've watched his development as the years have gone by. He had an unbelievable year for the Marlies this year. Big right shot D that defends as well as he gets the puck up the ice. So he's a real complete. He's a similar player to Del Mastro in the sense that he's a strong defender. He likes the game. He likes to play on the edge and physical, but he's able to get the puck up the ice and help out on the offense as well. So, and the added caveat is that he's been around the Steelheads since he was a little kid, and he really wanted to be in Mississauga. We were lucky to get him in the third round, and he's going to be a good one for us.
It's really exciting getting to see these players coming in, especially as you mentioned, Parker von Richter, since he's been around the Mississauga Steelheads for quite a while. I'm sure it's exciting to get to see him get drafted by the team, and eventually, when the time comes, being on the roster.
We fully expect PVR to be here in the fall, and we'll bring him along, and just like we have with the other D that we've brought in, and we expect him to be on the roster in the fall. So whether he plays in all the games, 68 games or 40 games or 30 games, it'll depend on his development curve. But we're pretty confident that he'll make the jump.
And I want to stick on the topic of the NHL draft. Owen Beck and Luca Del Belbaluz both being drafted in the second round, 33rd and 44th respectively, to the Montreal Canadiens and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Was there any sort of advice that you gave them going into draft day that you talked with them about it beforehand?
Yeah, really, it's a very not difficult time. It should be an enjoyable time. So I was trying to get them to enjoy it, but it's a pretty stressful time for the guys and their families, especially with both Owen and Luke. It was, there was talk of both of them going in the first round. If they didn't go in the first, they wouldn't get too deep in the second. And that's exactly what happened. And when draft day came around, it really goes in cycles. The one year there was a lot of D that went off the board. So that all of a sudden some players got pushed down, like Ryan McLeod. He should have been a first round pick with Edmonton. He was a second round pick, but there was a lot of D taken that year. So it pushed the forwards down in the second, but Ryan's doing pretty well now. So with Luca and Owen, a lot of Europeans went off the board early. So when teams started seeing that, they started taking the European players earlier, and the two of them got pushed down. Now, Owen got pushed down one pick, and Luca got pushed down 11 picks, but they both ended up with organizations that were really excited to get them where they got them. Both are back now from camp. They both had successful development camps. I know both teams Montreal and Columbus are really excited to get them. And I know both players are on top of the moon right now after coming back, and they loved Montreal and Columbus respectively. So good for them, great for them. And then we had a bunch of players invited to camp right at the end of the draft. So it was, as much as it'd be nice to hear your name selected, that would be terrific. It didn't happen, but then a whole bunch of guys got invites. So it was a pretty neat day for everybody.
I can imagine. I'm glad that that they enjoyed the process. And of course, you mentioned that there were a couple of players that were invited to camp, being, Casper Larson, Callum Chisholm, Zach Lavoie, quite a few on this roster. And just to be able to experience NHL camps must have been incredible for them, getting to kind of look into the next chapter potentially.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, some players, with Callum Chisholm and Zach, it was their first year in the league, right? So it was a lot for them to take on, and both had their struggles early. Zach really took off, in the second half of the year, had a terrific second half, and I'm sure he's going to have an awesome year next year. With Chizzy, it was kind of up and down year. We tried to explain to him, with his speed, he's got great speed. He's a great big body. We don't want him running around just crashing and banging, but he's got to play with a little bit more of an edge. And I think by going to camp, that's a huge plus for him. Kai Schwint, went to Florida. Again, first year in the league. And he just got better and better as the year went along. And Florida was really excited about his camp. And then obviously Casper Larson, we knew, there was talk about him getting drafted. If he didn't, then he was going to sign right away. So we knew kind of at the end of the draft that a few of the guys would be going. But it's terrific that they all got to go and experience their first NHL development camps.
And I can imagine that's it. When you think about the next chapter of their hockey careers and, the future, being able to kind of go to these camps and hone your skills to bring them back to the league this year, it's going to be beneficial for them. Absolutely. Moving on to the next topic, which a lot of people are excited about. 10 years of Steelheads hockey. You've been here for the majority of it. JR, I wanted to ask you, since you joined the organization, what has it meant to you to be a part of this team?
Well, I'm quite honored actually to be the head coach and GM. Elliot Kerr has been great to myself and to my family. My first year I came in, I was the assistant coach and kind of ran the D and the PK. And then after that, I was the head coach. Then the year after that, I was the GM and head coach. So I think when Elliot did speak to me, it was about coming in to change the culture, which is kind of funny because that's what they told me in Europe when I switched teams. And then when I came back home, it was the same thing. We want you to come in and change the culture. So I think I'm pretty confident in the sense that we've got a real good culture here with the Steelhead family. I mean, it talks volumes of how many NHL players we have now. Not just playing in the league, but drafted as well. So it's it's very humbling to be part of the Steelheads. I love it. My family loves it. We're not always right, but we do try to do right by the kids. So I think that we play a real fun brand of hockey for the fans to watch. It's been successful. To make the playoffs in this league every year is not easy because of the cycle that sometimes junior hockey runs into. But we've managed to I think put a real strong team on the ice every year and have players go on to the next level and reach their dreams. So and those players that aren't in NHL, I think we've won the Bobby Smith Award 3 out of the 6 years, 3 of the 7 years that I've been the head coach. And that's a huge honor for our players and the organization. So it's and Owen Beck winning the CHL award as well. But, Nick Hag won that. Thomas Harley won it, both NHL players. So Owen's in good company there. So to be a Steelhead or be part of the Steelheads and be the head of the hockey ops is it really is a dream come true. And I'm very humbled and very honored.
And finally, looking back over the last couple of years, was there a favorite moment that you've had with the team?
Oh, yeah. I mean, winning the Eastern Conference Championship was pretty neat. But I really, it's every year when I go to the NHL draft and I get to see and hear our players announced, that might be the best feeling that I have each year. And I'm lucky enough that I get to experience it on a yearly basis. It's not easy. So that's probably it. You know, it's when I see those players or when the players come back from NHL or when they come back from university hockey and they want to be around the team. It's it's just a great feeling. So it's there's so many of them, so many great moments. I really, it's hard to say that one supersedes the other. Obviously winning the Eastern Conference Championship was huge for our organization, for our team. But seeing our players move on to the CIS and come back and share their experiences with our players now, and then being at the NHL drafts and watching our players and hearing our players' names up there, I get to spend that weekend with them and their families. It's pretty cool.
That's so amazing. And, you know, I can only imagine just being around such a great group of players throughout the years that it's basically like they're becoming family. Hockey has always been described as, you know, a family game.
Yeah. It's, you know, we draft them when they're 15 years old, right? And they come in, some of them come in when they're 16, the others come in when they're 17 or 18, but we have them in pretty formative years, and we'd like to think that we're doing it right. You know, when kids aren't doing well in school, we don't let them play. You know, we don't let them practice. We don't let them play. We want them to be you know, not just a real good hockey player, but a good student and a good person. And I think by our track record, I think it's the right way. We're doing it the right way, and yeah, it's pretty neat to be part of it.
Absolutely. And congratulations on another season. Looking forward to talking to you at some point during the season again. It was once again great to have you on the show as always. And I wanted to wish you the best of luck going into training camp.
Super. All the best.
All right. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell notification for all future content. And if you liked it, don't forget to share it with all your friends. Until then, we'll see you next time.